Mary and James, Byron, welcome. It's people will be coming in soon. But anyway, but I'm not gonna wait. I'm gonna go ahead and there's someone else coming in. I want to get started because it would be nice if I could finish this in 30 minutes. So that'd be a test for me, but it should be okay. So let's get started. Here's the quote. When I let go of myself, I become who I may be. So the thing is to ask you a question. Who are you? Now I went through this exercise, 2 months ago. So I'm working with a coach. He said, okay, let's start. I'm gonna ask you 20 times. Who are you? And I would give an answer. And I would give an answer. George. They'd say, who are you? I'd say, well, I'm a man. Who are you? And this question just kept coming. I'm thinking, well, what the hell is he saying? Who am I? Well, I'm a Qigong teacher. Oh, well, who are you? I'm a Sifu. Who are you? I'm a father. I'm a grandfather. I'm a great grandfather. Who are you? This kept coming. He said, I'm not going to stop until you can tell me who you are. I got to 19 and I could not tell him who I was. It's interesting. It has nothing to do specifically with what we're talking about. What it had to do with something different, what he tried to get out of me for a program. So when I started to think about that, let me ask you, who are you? Are you your gender, your profession, your uh, family, where you are in the family, son, daughter, father, grandfather? I'm a business person. I'm a secretary. I'm a cook. I'm a baker. I'm a chef, candlestick maker. And you can go on, and people will keep going on and on and on, thinking that that is who they are. It's not. So when you start taking down a notch deeper, so then we have to find out who we are. And what happens if we discover who we are? Well, one exercise I went with at another program, and they had us take out baby pictures of ourselves. So I took one out, and I actually had two. That one when I was almost 2, and one when I was 4. And the difference in the two, in the look in the face, was amazing. The one was happy when I was 2, then the other one I was sad like this. It was at Christmas time. And I'm looking into the eyes. So the exercise was look into the eye of yourself when you were that age. Look for the essence. Who were you? When you were born, you were not a mother, father. You were not a gender. Well, you were gender after you're born, but I'm talking about in the womb. And you weren't a businessman. You weren't a baker, cook, all these different things, homemakers. The labels go on, and they're all labels. So now that they're all labels, let's get rid of those because that's not who you are. So if that's the case, then who am I? Well, you have to take that. That's your story. All these things that you can come up with, all these questions is just your story. And your story doesn't matter. It's just a story. It's not who you are at all. So if you otherwise, we all have these different stories, and they're basically ego-based. That's our ego. We want to hang on. That's what we think our identity is. Well, it may be an identity on a piece of paper, but it's not an identity in the overall scheme of being human or so on. That being the case, then we have to dig deeper and find out who we truly are. And it's not any of these things. So we have to go beyond the beliefs. And the other things, we're not a religion. Our religions have a God, and everybody's saying that my God's bigger or better than your God. You know, and then Christianity split up in all these different faiths. They all have basically the same principle. But the fact of the matter is that if we take a look at the essence when we were conceived, and apparently it's about 3 months. So I've heard that's when the spirit of the soul comes in. And I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying this is what I heard. But at some point in time, it enters the body. It doesn't enter the body at conception. So it gets to a certain point. Now, all of a sudden, it starts to learn. And it learns unconsciously, subconsciously, through the womb, through the mother, through the father, through voices, vibrations, and frequencies, and so on. But when does the spark come in? Is it 3 months? I don't know. But at some point in time, what we know as our spirit or our soul comes into the physical body. And then at that particular point in time, now we go on and we're born. Of course, we don't have we don't have a memory at that time. We have a subconscious memory. It's just a hard drive. It's a program, and that's how we learn to live within a family and a society, the community, how we're supposed to act, and so on. And this is all drilled into us by seven, and that's who we are, who we think we are. So now we're a tough boy, a bad boy, a slow boy, a girl. This, and again, like I say, that's just part of our story. So, what if I told you that science has, and we're talking about quantum science, has measured before they didn't have the tools to measure. Our tools were meant for the kind of frequencies and so on that we're dealing with in science. They had to create different equipment so that they could measure the subtle energies, because the energy that I'm going to talk about is different than the energy that we know that's on the earth, and it still exists here. So they find that quantum physics finds that we are 99.99999.9 energy. That means we are 00.00000.1 particle. That's it. And they can measure this through the atom and photons and what their mass is and so on. There's no mass. So it's just 0.0 or 0.1 particle. That's it. So this is the illusion. This is not even physical. Now, Max Planck, a great physicist back in 1945, said, all matter is an illusion, period. That it doesn't really exist. It exists in our mind, it exists in our concepts, and it's a great mind that actually interprets this energies. It's just all energy. The whole planet is nothing but energy. But we've been convinced and told that we are physical beings. Well, we're living in we're an avatar, if you will, kind of like the movie The Matrix with the avatars. We're an avatar in this lifetime. So what then would be the point? Well, the point, if we are an avatar, and here, what are we experiencing? What would be the purpose of what we experience? Well, let's take a jump. Now, I'm not saying I'm right or wrong. I'm just saying, giving you ideas based on information that I've looked up and researched and heard and so on. You can make your own decisions. We're all big people. But again, I question everything. So then what are we? So if we're just energy, and where did that spark, that soul, that presence that came with us, which is an energy, spirit, just an energy, where does it exist and why does it exist? Well, what's the point of being here? I mean, we're born, we live 60, 70, 80, 90 years, and then we're gone. And all that time we spent learning when we were growing up, learning in school and working and having kids, getting married, having a family, and all these kind of things, and then we die. That's it. That's the whole point. It just makes no sense to me. So Leland Vanderwall told me, and he told me years ago. Now he's in the quote book. I'm going to quote you one of his famous quotes. And he said, learning is a process of growth through experience, and this planet and everything in it is a school. Everything is a lesson. Well, if you look at it from that point of view, by the way, I hide these two because there's little Georgie. See how happy it was there? I don't even want to show you. I don't even want to show you the other picture. Sad, have a cowboy hat on and chaps and 2 6-shooters, cap guns like this. And I'm trying to figure out what happened between that George and the next George at 4. Anyway, so where is it? So the spirit is in this body, and it's to learn. If it's to here for experience, we have to take a look. Well, let's look at the possibility or the certainty, depending on your opinion, of past lives and future lives and reincarnation. Some people believe it is, some people believe it doesn't. Many people actually experience that. They just don't know it. Those who have had these near-death experiences come back with all these information about their past lives. So now maybe we're getting to a point of all this, a point to life itself, Us being born, working, having kids, dying, and that's it. Just there's no point to that unless the spirit that we came into this body, that came into this body, is here to learn. See, spirit, soul, it can't experience pain. It doesn't know what a good meal tastes like. It doesn't know what it's like to breathe. It doesn't know what a rose smells like. It doesn't know what it's like to walk. It can't hear, smell, taste, anything. It has to do that through this, what we call a physical body. So there's the experience. So it goes beyond that. So what's it feel like to experience compassion, gratitude, love, anger, hate, jealousy, all these different things? What would it's like? Now, what's that experience? So now, and forever's a long time, and you never get it right in one lifetime. It's not possible. There's too many variables, and you end up like this, and you end up a governor, or a politician, or a criminal, or whatever the case may be. You can't get it in one lifetime. Besides which, if we are part of a field, because we're just particle and energy, we're all part of this, what they call the quantum field, or they call it God, because all these things. And they talk about in most of the major Aboriginal cultures and in Christianity that God is within. Matter of fact, somebody encoded some ancient writings and said that the God, this is the DNA, the God within. It was a little bit longer, but you get the idea. So let's just for a moment accept the fact, temporarily or not, that reincarnation is possible because forever is a long time. I mean, what's the rush when you have infinity? So now the spirit has to come down, and this spirit has to learn all these different things. War, going towards a soldier, starting a war, killing a bunch of people, whatever. And it sounds crazy, but even the Charles Mansons of the world and other Pol Pot and all these horrific people that murdered all these people and killed them all brutally. So what's there? What did they have to learn? What perhaps it's not for me to say. I'm not at that level, but perhaps they had to learn about what's it's like to hate people that much. So now they go through and they come back. And when they're on the other side, that's when they understand because you're in the light at various levels. So I'm understanding. And all of a sudden you realize what you've done. So then maybe you come back as somebody who's murdered. Not for me to say. I mean, there's all kinds of information from different people, and I've never seen any actual physical proof other than NDEs, near death experiences. But it makes sense to me that if I'm here to learn, because people I know are so different than me, some just really angry at everybody. Some people I know, I just love everybody. Some people I know are just free flowing. My sister's like that. She just free flows, man. She's an amazing person. So now the spirit comes in, it has all the experiences. Now it can feel a touch to our body, a hug. And when you give a hug and someone, feels so good, it can have that experience through the body. It can't have it just all by itself. And so it can learn about all these things. It can learn about a passionate kiss. It can learn about raising children. It can learn about all these things, what it's like to drive a car. And everything that we experience, the spirit experiences in this one finite lifetime. If you want to expand it longer than that, what more is it going to learn? And infinity is a long time. I mean, how do you move up this? There's got to be a hierarchy. There's got to be a scale in heaven. It's not just everybody goes to one place. There's got to be a scale. So the more lifetimes you have, it's suggested that the higher the light, the greater the light, the more you move up. The whole point is getting to the top of the mountain or somewhere close anyway. It's not for me to say, it's for you to decide or to look up or to research. But it's just a fascinating thing. So if we give up who we think we are, what might we become? Well, let's say if we got rid of all the ego stuff. Now, I didn't say it's easy, but I can say it can be done. What if you get rid of all the ego stuff? What if you get rid of your story? And you're addicted to your story. We all are. So if we want to get rid of our story, then what's that leave? That leaves the essence that we were born with. Call it the God light, call it the spirit, call it the soul, whatever you prefer. But that's what's left when you take all the fluff away. And we take all the fluff away. And we're this essence that's here, this shining light that's inside here, apparently just behind the heart. And in that's the in quantum physics, they call that the source. Christianity, you can call that God. In other religions, you can call it something else, but it's the same thing. It's the light. And, I mean, for thousands of years, Aboriginal and indigenous, I should say, indigenous peoples understood this. And somehow we got lost when people tried to mess with our brain and tell us other things. So if we can strip ourselves of all this who we are, you know, it's like somebody says something, oh, you're just this. And all of a sudden you get mad and angry and so on. There you go. Because that's your story. You have to defend your story. So take it away. So now we've got just the essence. If we understand, and you can look this up, by the way. I mean, you look up Joe Dispenza or Greg Braden, Heart Math Institute, Institute of Heart Math in Colorado, Boulder Creek, Colorado, I believe. Anyway, the information is out there. You just got to look at it. Most people, we don't really bother. But when you do this and you find out that, wait a minute, all this stuff is just a story. All this stuff is just belief about what I am. And I'm not that at all. You know, and everybody's male and female, yin and yang. You can't have one side of a coin. So we have to have the only difference is in the balance. So now we come back and we experience this and we experience that. And we let go of all this kind of stuff, which is what we call the experience, is what we needed to learn something. Our spirit needed to learn something. Maybe it just needs to learn to open up and flow. If you're in that, can you imagine being in that place? And all of a sudden, it's just love. There's no anger, there's no hate, there's no jealousy. There's just love. Because these are all negative emotions that brings, who needs a negative emotion? When you're free flowing as spirit, it's just love and happiness and joy and light. And you flow, and abundance is there, and healing is there, and everything is there. And we just flow and enjoy life. Never think maybe that's why we were here. Some people think, and some religions think we're here to suffer. Why? If that's a life experience, fine. If it's not, maybe we're here just to discover who we truly are. We discover truly who we are. There's no fear, no jealousy, no hate, no rage, none of the negative emotions. They're gone. They can't exist in the same energy as love and joy and happiness and gratitude. Imagine just living a life like that and feeling those emotions constantly. You're not even feeling them anymore. You just are. And now you're going about your life where you see things and you don't judge. Judgment's more of a human thing. You know, one of the quotes in here is, you know, get out of judgment into analysis. And so when we're going around judging everybody, what if you went around saying, and just look at them differently? People don't even look at you. Kind of look, well, it's the facade. That's what they look at. They don't really pay attention because their phone's right over here somewhere. And have you ever turned to talk to somebody and you just, with intent, with curiosity, what is this person? How is this person? What are their feelings? What are their beliefs? What are their joys? What are this? And you focus into the eye. By the way, so little sidetrack here. If you're gonna look in somebody's eyes, you can't look in both because you'll probably see four. You look in one and you look in the left eye. Why the left? Because the left brain controls the right side of the body, the right brain controls the left side of the body, and the eyes are actually controlled a little bit by both. It's not one dominant. So, and that's both eyes are controlled by both. But generally speaking, the left eye is controlled. I look at it as being controlled more by the right brain because it's an emotional thing. And I can look at that and I can send energy into them. Here's, man, off on topic. Here's another thing what they discovered neutrons, these little particles. They're in our brain and they're outside of our brain. And when we send energy out, we send these particles out. Here's what they found out. If somebody is angry, you've had these little arguments. Somebody says something and you'll just kind of snap and you argue right back. That's the neurons. Their neurons reached out to your neurons and matched them. But the converse is true. If I go, somebody's angry and I go in and with love and respect and understanding and peace, and I can listen without getting involved, The my neurons reach to theirs and they calm down. Fascinating stuff, all this energy stuff. Where's they going with that? I don't know. Anyway, that was an interesting point. I guess the whole point is if you could live in a state of unconditional love, I mean, unconditional love. Most people don't love from their heart, they love from their head. And that's why there's so many divorces and long relationships that don't really, you know, gel as convenience. But when you're in unconditional love, you love from the heart. There's a complete difference. And it's the same thing with family, with kids, with friends. It's not unconditional. There's always a condition attached to it. That if I love you, I expect this in return. Or if you love me, you're going to respect this in return. I expect you to do this and this and this and this. And then that's love. I love you. You know, we think about these things very little. They just kind of pass us by. What I like about these wisdom quotes in this book is when I read them, it makes me think. And every time I read them, I've read this over a year. I've read this every day especially when I was putting it together. And the more I read it, the more it came out to me. There's a deeper meaning to these things. I mean, these signs sound cool. Everybody likes them. Oh, that's nice. And that's where it ends. And never goes on. I wanted to bring it on and find out really. So when you find out, for example, in this quote, well, who am I? I'm not this. I'm this essence, this spark of light that I was born with, that came with me. And when I die, what we call physical death, spirit doesn't. And if you want to take it in a science point of view, energy cannot be created or destroyed, it can only be transformed. So that spark, that energy goes on. If it didn't, it wouldn't be the point. At some point in time, the whole universe is going to fall apart and that's it. So if you look at it that way, but again, at death, the soul and spirit feels no pain whatsoever, and it moves on. And what's interesting, if you've ever, you can see these 15-minute videos or hour and a half videos of people who've died and come back at this near-death experience. There's even a kid, he was a 5-year-old kid down in the States. His father was a preacher, his mother was a Sunday school teacher with the kids, and this kid died. He was in the hospital and something happened, he died, but then he came back, 5, 10 minutes later. I can't recall what it is, but there's a book on it. And in the book and movie is Heaven is for Real. So he came back and he said he met his sister. So he never had a sister. Yes, they did. And her name was this. Well, the parents had named a girl and had stillbirth, but the spirit didn't die, the body did. There's an experience. So the kid goes up and he's having, he knew her name and she knew him. You're my brother and so on. He met his grandparents, which were dead. He met a bunch of relatives that he knew once he met them. He had seen them. That's Uncle Bob or whatever the case may be. But that's the first time he'd ever seen him or met him. Isn't that fascinating? Well, do we think that, well, that's just a story and, go on to our life? Or, would you like to think of that in a deeper, as a possibility? I don't believe in possibilities. I think it's real, but it doesn't matter what I think. But just the possibility, how would that change your life? How would it change the way you live? If you look at life that doesn't matter, but I'm going to do the things that are joyful and fulfilling, not the things I have to do, and just focus on this essence that who you are. And that's why if you start answering the question, if you took a pen and a piece of paper, you started writing, who am I? Who am I? What are you going to come up with? It's all story. And with that story, it's all just the illusion. And that's not your story. That's a story that was given to you. And that's the story you've been carrying on all through your life at different points and different ages. It's the same story, same beliefs, same patterns, same habits, same everything. The only difference is the pictures and the people in the drama, whatever that is. Same pattern playing over again. You just got to think outside the box. And if I got rid of all that, if you could get rid of all that and live, can you imagine? I don't know. I think life would be absolutely amazing like that. That's entirely up to you. So I'll leave you with those questions that you can ask yourself. I did have a couple of notes. I write notes, I never look at them. Let's see, but I think I covered everything I had down. And if I got a question, I can give you an opinion. No, I'm not going to give you I'm going to give you the science I heard of. It's up to you to look it up, or you just want to think about it. Well, I'm going to give you the here's the exercise that you might want to do. You can do it by yourself. See if you can find a picture of yourself, preteen. All right, that's the key. But the younger, the better. So if you can take a look and say, you take a look at that picture and you look in the eye. I take it and I, when you see that's a picture that captured the essence. Well, these are my brothers and sisters. And you see that smiling to me down here, the little one, right? Baby, the family. And you sit and you look at that and you look in the eye, look for the essence. And if you look long enough, I don't mean days or weeks, just sit down for 10, 15 minutes, you look long and you get deep and you go back and you feel what you're feeling at that time. I was happy and wonderful. That's my essence. What happened to my essence? It got messed up with my beliefs and my programming and all that kind of stuff. I'm getting back to it now. That doesn't mean that life has been a disaster. It's been difficult a lot of times and not so difficult a lot of times. But if you could have anything you need, want, or desire without limitation or compromise, would you want it? That's when you live by the essence. In other words, you're living completely in the energy field, but still within the human body. All righty. I guess that's all I got. Does anybody have any questions? You can go ahead and ask if you want, or just put it in the chat, maybe. And if not, then I'll let y'all go.
George,
Sure.
I long time ago in the late '60s, a Yaqui Indian out of Arizona put it that everything is today. Your life is means everything and nothing at the same time. Everything because we live in this life now, and nothing over the big scale of things. We're just part of the universe.
Yeah.
It's,
Well, it's all part of the universe. It's all part of the quantum field. Now the quantum scientists are telling us that they can measure this, that there's no empty space. Like we thought, between the stars, look at the galaxies, it's all empty space. It's dark matter. There's no such thing as empty space. And they're saying that all the planets that we see forming are just energy. And if you try and comprehend that everything in the universe, all the planets and the suns and stars and asteroids, and everything else, don't exist, they're just energy. It's kind of like a brain twister. But then you go back to the science and quantum physics and how they prove these kind of things and the equipment and instruments that they have right now. I mean, they can measure energy coming out of the body. They can tell you that when you're in your heart, I mean, when you actually in your heart, it goes out 3 feet around you, and it's picked up by everybody, and then that goes out into the quantum field, and that goes everywhere. I mean, this quantum physics is really a mind bender. But I never graduated high school. I taught everything. I went and learned the things that were important to me. So there you have it. I still find it fascinating. I don't think it is as science fiction. It's now science fact. But you're right. All the indigenous peoples all knew. They all knew their connection to the earth, the connection to the cosmos, the connection to the Great Spirit, Wankantanka, pick a name, God, so Yahweh, in the Christian faith. So it's all that way. Anyway, I'll leave with that information, and I will let's see where. There we go. There's one. Oh, yeah, the Institute of Heart Math, and it's in Boulder Creek, Colorado. You can just Google Heart Math, Institute of Heart Math, and it'll all come up there. And they've been doing this for 30 years, all these scientific studies, and now they develop equipment. They say, okay, what about this? And they find it. It's just it, you know, once you change your thinking, and once you say, I wonder, and you start pursuing that, and looking for the truth, and going down that rabbit hole and see what you find. Generally speaking, you can either find nothing or you can find the answer to what you're looking for. And particularly at my stage of life. I mean, I'm on my way to 72 and I'm halfway there. So if I turn around and say, well, what was the point of all this? Or where do I want to go? And then I go, and that's what I want to find out. Because now before we were just working to live and living to work. But what's got better? I think the society and the human race is worse off now than it ever was. We have people believing all kinds of stuff. Kids getting shot, pedophilia, robberies, murders, wars, rumors of wars. And I choose not to live in that reality. I choose to live in the reality that I create and work from a position of peace, love, gratitude, and joy. It's that simple. So I got to shed all this stuff who I think I am. And even the thing about it, Sifu is a title. I just teach. And also, I'm also a 7th degree black belt in karate. And the term there's sensei. Then we got Renchi and Kyoshi and all these titles all the way up to 8th and or 10th dan, or 10th black belt, 8th black belt. So the 7th, it's Shiendai and Kyoshi. It's just a little bit under what's called Kyoshi. And it's a sensei. So everybody still calls me sensei. I had an old student, he started when he was 8 years old, he's 31. He showed up today, had some posters and so on. He's made his own little dojo or studio. And he still calls me sensei. I got adults with kids still call me sensei. And they're like this big when they started. But the reason is sensei, I preferred that over anything else because all it meant was somebody who's ahead on the path, or someone who's ahead on the path. I just know a little bit more about karate than you do. That's it. And my teacher, I call him sensei. Why? Because he's more ahead on the path. And Sifu is kind of like master, but it means different in China than it does in the Chinese language. It does. And we take masters, all this kind of stuff. Sifu. It's just, I'm just one who's ahead on the path. That's all. And it's my teacher is Sifu. That's what I call her. Anyway, I could, James, anybody else got a question?
I could give a speech from the Christian point of view, but I don't know if you want to hear that.
Well, you could arrange that for another time. But there's so many different points of views. That's why who's right and who's wrong. And I think in the final analysis, does it really matter who's right or who's wrong? Because it's going to be what it's going to be. And obviously Christian principles and the indigenous principles, take care of the earth and everybody else, kind of like the same thing, just a different context. I think when if I was agnostic, which I'm not, I consider myself a Christian, and you were a Christian man, and we both died at the same time and went up, and because we met in this lifetime, might end up at the same place, maybe at a little different level. I don't know. But somebody's got to believe in something that's greater than we are. I think that's the point. And like you say, there's Baptists and Episcopalians and Lutherans and Catholics, and the list goes on and on and on. And they all believe in the basic thing, but not in the whole thing. They all got a piece of it, but that's common. Which one's right? I'm not right, so I'm going to go join this one. But the whole basis of Christianity and Christ is real. I mean, there's evidence to that. But how can I put this? But I think the bottom line is love is what it comes to. And then
Christ is love, and if you if you want to live a good life, then you take that side.
Yeah.
Can you give me about 2 minutes to read through my opinion?
Do you have much? Okay, give me 2 minutes because I'm already 5 minutes over. Go ahead.
The Holy Spirit resides within us through a ritual called baptism. But another spirit that also visits us is called the devil. So therein we have, from the beginning with Adam, good and evil. So what we try or strive to do as humans is choose one over the other. So it's the human experience to choose between good and evil. This is after the devil speaking through a snake resulted in Adam breaking his rules and therefore God's law was broken. So after that, God flooded the entire earth, and everyone was killed except for Noah's family, who was Christian, and we move on from there. And that didn't work. So then he tried and brought Moses to take them out of Egypt, and that didn't work so well either. So finally, God took the last resort and sent his only son to be our Messiah. And if you live in him completely, you won't have all the worldly pains that we try to question and resolve on our own.
Well, then that would ask the question that if there is somebody, I'll just pick up north, some Aboriginals, maybe they're not Eskimos anymore, up that lived there all their life, and they were good people. And they loved everybody. They shared. They had community. They looked after the earth. They looked after each other. They looked after the environment. But no Christian ever visited them. Does that mean that they're going to go in someplace else? So it can't be. There was one story I heard, and somebody went up to an indigenous group up north, and this, I don't know what faith was preaching, obviously about Christ. And he says, well, unless you take Jesus Christ as your savior, you're going to go to hell. So, well, what if you never told me about him? Well, you wouldn't go to hell. Why'd you tell me? So the whole point is that they can't reach everybody on the planet. And there's still people in Brazil, tribes in Brazil live on the earth. Are they good, bad, or indifferent, or just different? So I think it really gets down to the heart. And I don't think that, this is my opinion, I don't think when you go up there, so you're not that, you're gone. Go into the pit. Because the whole concept of heaven is a oneness. It's not a duality. And if that's the case, then the devil or evil and good must live within the same reality. Because it's not a two thing. It's not one or the other. It's all part in the same thing. How it fits together and what the energy aspect of it and so on, I have no idea. We can speculate, and we can take some writings from different places and try to speculate. But for me, so I was born as a Christian. So I'm a Christian. I'm not a devout Christian in the sense, but I like to live by the principles. And so far, it's been pretty good to me. But when I cross over to the other line, I'll find out. And I hope I was right. Anyway, any other questions before we go? And thanks for that question, James. We've had similar conversations like this. I do like them. And that's how you learn. By the way, I'll just leave it to this point. In ancient Babylon, how they learned is they get a group of people, call it a temple or a room. I'll sit down and somebody at the front would say, well, the moon is square or the earth is flat. Let's try that one. And then they would start. One would say, why do you think it's flat? Well, I think of this. And somebody else said, no, that can't be. And they'd have this long discussion, and out of it would come their belief or understanding. They'd put it in a clay tablet. And that was it. That's how they learned. They weren't always right. And we kind of doing that here in this way. Anyway, folks, this is the longest I've ever gone on. And thanks for hanging out. I hope you enjoyed it. If you liked it, tell your friends. If you didn't, remember silence is golden. And if you happen to watch this again on the YouTube channel, because we do it live on Zoom, and then we download it to the YouTube channel usually within a day. And Cheryl does that. She's great at it. And then you can see it on YouTube, all the all the podcasts. So this is going to be the third one. And when you get out there, I hear these young guys say, smash that like button, hit that follow button, even hit the bell. I don't even know what the hell that's for. But anyway, you do those things. And thanks so much for joining me. And we'll see you all hopefully in a couple of weeks for something new and exciting, a new discussion. And if you want to participate, by all means, you're more than welcome. Thanks, everybody. And we'll see you again soon. And leave your comments if you can. I'm real interested in reading them. Or you can put them on the YouTube channel. Thanks. Bye.